Is this kind of information getting through to you? Well, let me ask you for your comments, if I may, to start on the issue of why you didn't turn over the Phoenix memorandum to this committee, and why, when you had been asked about it, you never told the committee that you had turned the memorandum, or the memorandum had been turned over to the Inspector General.
Well, my understanding from the early days was that Congress had determined that the Intelligence Committee was going to do the retrospective.
Well, that's not true. That's not true. It didn't happen until mid-February. This is an ongoing standing committee. And we were emphatic on your confirmation hearings, and of course you and I discussed this privately. And you committed on the record to respect the oversight of this committee on matters of importance. We didn't anticipate the Phoenix memo.
We did have that dialogue, Senator, and it's still in my mind. And my thoughts during that period of time were, as I've said on a number of occasions, were directed at doing the investigation, trying to prevent the second wave of attack. And in fact, if there was going to be a wave of attack, with the expectation that there would be a retrospective down the road, and the expectation that we would turn everything over to that committee.
I respect that, and I agree with it. And I took a public position there ought not to be an inquiry immediately after 9/11, because the most important thing was to allow the intelligence agencies to regroup and stop another attack. But that doesn't go to the issue of turning over the Phoenix memo, at least to the chairman and ranking member. Had they seen it, had we seen it, we would have had some very good suggestions for you.
I understand, Senator.
How about the chart?
Well, with regard to my understanding at the time that I answered on the Sunday show, I did not know of a document that met that description. What I've come to find out is that there is a PowerPoint presentation that was prepared by an individual who had used the newer technology, the database mining technology that we are now using, to show how, if we had had that database mining technology in place at the time, we perhaps could have tied the individuals together. It is not a chart. It is a series of slides showing how this new technology would have worked.
Okay. Would you yield for a point of clarification? What did the director mean when he said, "I understand"? You asked him a question, he said, "I understand." I didn't know what that means.
Well, I'd be glad to answer that question for you, Senator Biden, but I'll defer to the witness.
What do you mean by "I understand"?
By the way, this is on his time, Mr. Chairman.
I'm just curious what he means.
I intend to be.
The memo to this committee, he gave his explanation what he thought the committee would do, and you said, "I understand." But I thought the question was, why did you not submit this memo?
Because I believed that the retrospective would be done by the Intelligence Committee. And I thought I'd indicated that.
Senator Biden, who gets the award as the second most patient person at this hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the good things about not being chairman of this committee anymore, I don't have to turn the lights off like you do. But, your patience and your physical constitutions are admirable. And I thank you, and you may be pleased to know I'm going to not focus so much on the memos. I'll come back on that. But one of the things that does concern me here is you're only a piece of the puzzle. And we talk about connecting the dots. I'm not sure this government, us included, are connecting the dots on law enforcement here. Let me be more precise with you. You are necessarily reorganizing the FBI. What you move, the pieces you move, affect other pieces. DEA is significantly affected. The cops program, which this administration is eliminating, is deeply affected. The Homeland Defense Office, which you're about to eliminate, I guess, I don't know what the hell we're doing, is about to be changed. Now, in fairness to the president, this is all new. I wish we wouldn't all. I think this is a place and a time where a good dose of humility is in order for senators, for presidents, for directors of the FBI, for everybody. Because everybody should understand, you move one piece, it's affecting every other piece in this puzzle. Every other piece in this puzzle. And so even if you get it 100% right, if you do the perfect job. You may inadvertently, by what you do, impact negatively on what are we all about? We're about the public safety of individuals. I've been on this committee for 30 years. I used to be the chairman of this committee. I've been the head of the crime subcommittee and the drug subcommittee and the oversight of the FBI for over 20 years. There's been a lot of changes that have taken place. The bottom line is, whether or not my mother gets killed by a terrorist, or my mother gets killed by a drug lord, or my mother gets killed by a junkie, or my mother gets killed by a bank robber in the parking lot of the supermarket, doesn't matter. She's dead. She's dead. And the single biggest problem we have facing America every single day is the drug problem. It's causing 68% of all the violent crime in America relates directly to drugs. More people are killed in drug-related occurrences than have occurred in all the terrorist acts combined. Not even close. Now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't focus on terrorism. What I'm trying to get a handle on here is whether we're doing this on the fly or we're doing this really intelligently. So I want to ask you a few questions. Was the FBI consulted on what the president is going to announce tonight? Were you consulted? The president says thus far there is, what we're talking about here is there's going to be a new Homeland Defense Office. Not the old one, a new one. We're doing this again. Were you consulted on the details of this new office? Will the FBI gain or lose jurisdiction as a result of this new office?
Respectfully, Senator, I do not believe it appropriate for me to disclose discussions I might have had with the president.
I think that's malarkey. That is not legitimate. I'm not asking you what he said. I'm asking you, were you consulted?
Senator, I believe that that I should not be forthcoming with regard to consultations with the president. I believe the president is entitled to the advice from a number of people, and I do not believe that it would be appropriate for me to get into it.
With all due respect, fortunately, I'm not the chairman of this committee because I would not accept that answer. You are in this committee. I am not asking you, there is no executive privilege here. I'm asking you whether you were consulted. That's all I'm asking you. And if you can't tell us whether you're consulted before the President of the United States is about to announce a total reorganization of the entire Homeland Defense effort, you can't tell us whether or not your jurisdiction is going to be changed. You can't tell us whether or not there will be a synthesis of intelligence from the White House sources, including all of these agencies. How are we to...
I think the president is entitled to make whatever announcement the president's going to make tonight, and I would be happy to come back tomorrow after the president's made his announcement and discuss it. But I do not believe that it is appropriate for me to, because of the coincidence of this hearing today, to get into discussions that the president may have had with regard to whatever he is going to announce tonight.
I'm not even asking. Has he spoken to you about this?
Again, Senator.
I think this is ridiculous. That's all right. I'll
Yes,
move
and
off. I'll move off this.
And there'll be order in the...
I'll move off this. This is one of the reasons why there is this pale that sort of hangs over the office and this whole question about what we do about Homeland Defense. You can't sit here and say whether or not you've been consulted about a reorganization I find astounding. But let me move to another issue. The reorganization of the FBI. How many agents are currently assigned? By the way, you all state, and you're right, as the author of the Violent Crime Control Act to put 100,000 cops in the street and did this, and I wrote that myself. I wanted you to understand that I congratulate the FBI on their work. In your budget submission to Congress, you noted that the FBI's Violent Crime Major Offenders Program is partially responsible for the fact that crime rate has declined an average of 7% per year towards the end, from the beginning toward the end of the 1990s. Now, we have some things that are happening out there. There's a demographic shift. Those folks 37 into the system. We have a new demographic bulge. The only thing you know about crime and I know about crime, and I've been doing it as long as you have, is that when you get to be 35 or 40, you commit fewer violent crimes because you can't jump the chain link fence when the cop is chasing you. And the only other, for real, we don't know a whole lot more about a lot of these things. And we also know that the crime committing years are those kids who think they're invincible and not at all vulnerable between the ages of 12 and 18. And there's a direct correlation between how many of them there are out there and the rate of crime that exists, violent crime that exists. Now we're about to get a bulge in violent crime based on past track record, because we have this new cadre of young people, sort of the baby boomlet that's out there. We also have the emergence of new threats, and we have all the other things we know about. Now, totally, can you tell me how many FBI agents are currently assigned to your violent crime section?
I would have to get you the figures. I don't have them off the top of my head.
Do you know, Mr. Fine?
No, I don't, Senator.
I can tell you there's about approximately 1,800 of them. Now, how many, do you know what percentage, anyway, are going to be shifted out of violent crime?
I believe that we are shifting approximately 59 agents out of violent crime.
Now, how will
Not approximately. I think it is 59 agents in the proposal.
How will this shift be felt in your field offices? I mean, do you have any sense of what that means in terms of man hours used that are now will not be available to deal with violent crime?
Yes, the process we went through to determine whether or not or what programs would be affected by the shift of resources to counterterrorism was to go to the agents in the field, special agents in charge, and say, okay, where can you pull people back from task forces? And my belief is those 59 bodies that will come off of violent crime will be where we have 12 bodies, or not bodies, but when we have 12 individuals, special agents working on a task force addressing violent crime, we will now have 9 or 10. And that'll be across the country. So I think it will be a minimum impact in particular divisions, but I have also told the SACs that if there is a particular crisis or a particular threat in a city, then they should use their discretion to take others off of other programs to address that violent crime problem.
Now, keep in mind, I'm not being critical of your decision because you're the only guy that can do the terrorism side of this. You've got to do this. I'm trying to make sure we understand what's going to be left, what's going to be left out there. Can you tell me what specific functions? Have you categorically made judgments about local functions that have overlapped? For example, FBI agents have handled interstate car theft. FBI agents have handled bank robberies. FBI have handled things that are local, concurrent jurisdiction, but we've looked to the FBI to do them. Have you made any categorical judgments about things you are not going to be in on anymore because you have to shift your resources to deal with terrorism?
I've made judgments. I don't know whether you call them categorical judgments.
Well,
but,
I mean categories of
categories,
crime.
yes. And bank robberies, I think we ought to stay in multi-county bank robberies. I've met with IACP, for instance, and they believe that we ought to stay there because we provide a service that they cannot replicate. We would not do one-note bank robberies in the future. They can handle those. Armed bank robberies, we probably will stay in those. When it comes to narcotics, the areas that I'd like to withdraw from are those where we overlap with DEA, particularly in the cartel cases, but not do it abruptly when we have agents that are intimately involved in an investigation of one of the cartels. We ought to withdraw slowly from that. We ought to probably no longer be doing cases such as, well, marijuana cases, standalone methamphetamine cases, the ecstasy cases, where the state and locals can do those cases. But by the same token, we ought to be flexible in a particular area where they need our resources, where DEA is not there, be flexible to address the crime on the local level.
Well, I appreciate it. I know my time's up, but there's one area maybe I'll submit in writing, but 400 FBI agents are coming off of drug cases into counterterrorism. Again, I don't think you have any choice but to do that. Did you discuss that, since it's happened already? Did you discuss that with the director of the DEA?
Well, it has not happened because it's a proposal.
Well,
to
let me put it this way.
Congress,
You are
Yes.
formally proposing it.
Yes, I
Did
have
you
discussed
discuss
it.
that
I
with
have
the
discussed
DEA?
it, yes.
And what was the response of the DEA, unless that's executive privilege too? Are they telling you that they're going to need more money? Do you think they need more agents? I mean, what do you think is going to happen?
What I discussed with Mr. Hutchinson was, what they said was, the process whereby we would assure that nothing gets dropped in the cracks as we reassign these individuals. Now, my understanding is that he believes in the short term he can undertake that, but I also believe that he'll be looking for additional resources down the road.
Well, just so you know, you have 400 agents, roughly $100 million bucks. You've been aiding with DEA. You've been doing a great job. You're going to be gone from that. They're going to end up $100 million bucks short in terms of resources. They're the resources you're contributing now to the drug war, about $100 million bucks. And I hope that as we put this all together, and I'll be back to this a lot, Mr. Chairman, and it's not the director's responsibility, not the director's responsibility, but there's more than one piece to this puzzle. We will have not served our communities well if we have focused more on anti-terrorism, reduced the total number of cops that are on the street, impacted by a $100 million reduction in the anti-drug effort, moved in a way where we find that we're going to have additional responsibilities taken from you or added to you through this new Homeland Defense Office. You can't do the whole job with the same amount of money and the same number of people. You can't re-slice the pie, I'd respectfully suggest. You need a much bigger pie. A much bigger pie. And I'm here to tell you you'll get my support to make the pie bigger for the FBI, and I hope someone in the administration is listening, that there's more than one piece of this pie. And I would conclude by saying, Mr. Chairman, that when you were out, the senator from Arizona talked about how there was, that he had held all these hearings and so on, which he did in the terrorism subcommittee, and we didn't pass any of that stuff. And he said that
Actually, we did pass it and went over to the House of Representatives, and the Republican House
and that
wouldn't pass
civil
it.
libertarians were opposed to it right after 1994. And you can ask the Attorney General this, because I got a call when he introduced the PATRIOT Act. He said, Joe, I'm introducing the act basically as you wrote it in 1994. It was defeated then not by any liberals. It was defeated then by the folks who worried that we'd have the Minutemen would get in trouble, by the Mr. Barrs of the world, who were worried about the right wing, not anything else. So just that has nothing to do with you all, but just to set the record straight. Almost the same thing that got passed, the Patriot Act, was introduced by me in 1994. And it was the right wing that defeated it. You guys tried to help get it passed, including the wiretap changes and the rest. So
Good, because we have a vote on it. I would note that the kind of things we should be looking at.
Mr. Chairman.
And so I appreciate, I'll be anxious to turn on my computer tomorrow and read the transcript of whatever is announced tonight on the thing, but just so you understand, there's going to be still a lot of questions. All we want to know is who's doing the job? Who's doing the job? Who's making sure that we don't have another major screw-up like we saw with the memos prior to September 11th? We just want to protect Americans against terrorists. I don't care who gets the credit for it. I just want Americans to be protected.
Mr. Chairman, may I just have 30 seconds? I realized I was confrontational with you because you surprised the hell out of me. You've come and suggested a whole new reorganization to us, and the president's going to announce a reorganization night, and you can't tell us whether or not the reorganization you are asking us to consider has been vetted and has been discussed with and coordinates with the other one. That's the reason for my frustration. I just assume you're going to answer my question. It has nothing about you. Nothing about you. But I hope to Lord that after you're submitting to us a reorganization, and the president announces today he's submitting the most significant reorganization, I think they said in 50 years or 100 or something, that y'all had talked.
And we will stand in recess till 3:15. Thank you.